Chapter 2, New World Pirates. In 1492, an explorer named Christopher Columbus made a sea voyage that changed the history of the world. Columbus was hired by the King and Queen of Spain. They wanted him to find a new way to get to the continent of Asia. Columbus never found a new way to Asia. Instead, he landed on an island in the Caribbean Sea. The island was in a part of the world that people in Europe did not know about. A voyage is a long trip on a ship. It is the area we now call the Western Hemisphere. In Columbus's time, it became known as the New World. The Western Hemisphere is the half of the Earth that includes North, Central, and South America. Native Americans lived here for thousands of years before Columbus. After Columbus's voyage, Spanish explorers took over large areas of Central and South America. They destroyed the civilizations of the Native Americans. They stole their gold and silver. They stole their jewelry and precious stones. The Spanish loaded their stolen goods onto treasure ships. These ships were great targets for pirates. A civilization is a group of people with an advanced way of life that includes science, art, and most often, writing. Buccaneers. Some of the pirates who attacked Spanish treasure ships were called buccaneers. Buccaneers were mostly outlaws from England, Holland, and France. In the 1600s, they settled on several islands in the Caribbean. Buccaneers lived in camps. They hunted cattle and wild pigs on their islands. They learned from Native Americans how to cook meat on grills called boucans. For this reason, they became known as buccaneers or buccaneers. Spain ruled the islands where the buccaneers lived. In the 1630s, Spanish rulers decided to drive them off the islands. The buccaneers were furious. They became pirates. Buccaneers began attacking Spanish ships that sailed close to their islands. They would row out in canoes and attack a ship with guns, knives, and axes. Then they would steal the ship's treasure. Privateers. A special kind of sea raider was called a privateer. Privateers worked for a government. They had permission to attack ships that belonged to a country's enemies. Privateers took treasure from the ships they attacked and kept it for themselves. The government papers that gave permission to privateers were called letters of marque. Sometimes they gave part of their stolen treasure to the rulers who hired them. In the 1600s, the rulers of many countries wanted a share of Spain's New World riches. They often hired privateers to attack Spanish ships and towns. To their own countries, privateers were heroes. To their enemies, they were simply pirates. How to become a buccaneer. Buccaneers were famous for their dirty, stinky ways. Here's how to become a buccaneer. Number 1, don't bathe or change clothes. Buccaneers didn't wash for months at a time. They made their clothes from animal skins and dressed in the same clothes every day until they wore out. Number 2, don't wear shoes. Buccaneers almost always went barefoot, even when they attacked a ship. Number 3, have a barbecue. Ships from all over the world stopped at the Buccaneers' islands for hides, water, and supplies. The sailors often enjoyed the meat the buccaneers grilled on their boucans.